Okay, guys, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly Dungeon Master this evening, or this morning, or this afternoon, wherever this might find you. Today, we are continuing on with Session 5, or Episode 5 of our Great School of Magic campaign, played with Paizo Publishing's Pathfinder 2nd Edition, set in Bruce Hurd's very cool, classic Principalities of Glantri, Gazetteer 2 for the known world setting. And with me today are the star pupils of the Great School campaign. I'll go the order I got you guys on the screen here. Why don't you tell us who you are and who you're playing. First up is Bodo.
Hello, my name is Bodo, and I'm playing Keela, and I have to organize some sweets for our teacher today.
That kind of teacher. She's an apple publisher. Okay, and next up is Brandon.
My name is Brandon. I'm playing one Juliano, a Belcady's elf, and I'm probably trying to outdo Keela at the same task.
And next up is Arlen.
Hi, I'm Arlen, and I'm playing Angus, and he people joke that he's not a real wizard, but he is a real wizard.
Okay. And last but not least is John.
Hey everybody, I'm John. I'm playing Valyria Vaduva, slightly dark necromancer that toys at being an alchemist, and she is the best, so there's no competing.
Nice. So, today, guys, what I thought we would do is, the last, things have been kind of at a breakneck pace since classes have come in. You first had the, that crazy broom competition with your fellow pupils. You then had the, one second, I'm just going to move some stuff over here because my eye line is a little fucked up. There we go, it's a little better. That was followed by, you guys taking part in the annual prank that goes on with the first conclave, which was to steal El Rojo Negro, the big bull's head that is on display behind the bar at the local Belcady's, or was a Belcady's watering hole, the Hacienda. And unfortunately, in the course of doing that prank, one of your members was kidnapped. And Keela, why don't you tell us what happened there?
I was kidnapped by a lot of spiders, and they wrapped me in and tortured me with more spiders. And then my other pupils came to rescue me, and I was very glad. And we burned the spider and chopped his head off by our not wizard. And yeah.
Nice. So actually, you may have blocked this out, but 2 sessions ago, that spider made its escape.
Yeah, we got an arm.
Yeah, it transformed into a pile of, or a swarm of spiders, and made its way across the surface of the canals. And unfortunately, before you guys could get to it, it seems to have effected an escape. Yeah.
A little creepy. And don't forget the torture.
Yes, and then you guys had the opportunity to meet the Galantrian secret police. And that was an experience, for certain. That ended with you guys meeting your... I misplaced the notes, hold on. Your main instructor. One sec, where'd I put this stuff? Here we go.
Did I fill this in?
I think it's the Valentin Vestimirovich.
Yes.
Valentin.
The instructor for the evocation magic.
That's right.
Yes. I took notes.
Excellent.
Well, it's a handout on the Roll20 thing.
Oh, well, I took notes on my actual character page.
Oh. Look at you.
Who is the apple polisher now?
Be the very best, like no one ever was.
All right. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to use today's session to kind of get to know a little bit more about. I've mentioned to some of you guys offline before, but I am much more a fan of showing rather than telling. So rather than doing like emails and kind of filling in the backstory, I thought what we'd do is use this session to kind of explore a little bit about where you guys are from, what your families are about, and then try and get you in some more trouble as well. I mean, you guys don't seem to need any help with that, but, you know, I'll see what I can do to throw an even bigger wrench in. So what we're seeing, you know, as the opening of this scene is the montage of your first month of studies. And as much as the first couple of days of class were dangerous and, you know, and really challenging, the actual routine of studies at the Great School, as much as you'd expect for any other, you know, kind of boarding school or whatnot. Like, there are tons of structured activities. You guys are getting training in like flying rooms. You guys are attending classes where you're learning the rudiments of spellcasting. You are having, you know, study sessions where a lot of you are looking and trying to, you know, collectively figure out what the answers are to certain questions that are posed. And you're learning about, you know, the wide variety of other kind of things. You're learning about the undead. You're learning about aberrations. You're learning about the planes, you know. And what you can think of if you think of like the contents in, like, say, the Pathfinder books or like the Manual of the Planes or things like that, that would be like the syllabus. And then the things you guys are studying are the complex metaphysical underpinnings of all of those different concepts. You know, so it's an extraordinarily challenging, you know, time, and it really requires just a shit ton of research, or not research, of homework as well too, and home study. You know, I'm not sure how you guys were foreseeing your time at the Great School, but if you're expecting to be like attending soirees and having parties and stuff like that, boy, you sure as shit don't have time for that. Yeah, Juan Juliano's like, my social calendar is ruined. But fortunately, at the, well, I guess first off, like, is there any scene that you guys want to inject into that first month? Like anything that you guys are particularly studying, or?
I would try to study a bit of the cleric order that that there is, so that I will dip into a bit of cleric, and so I will study there in my free time, my little free time. I will go there and study a bit more.
That was, I think it was the Shepherds of Raz, right? Or of Rad.
Yeah.
Because it was Sister Shepherd Johanna is who you were talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
So
I maybe need to shave my hair, so we will see.
okay. So Keela, Keela makes a dramatic change from these long blonde locks after the first couple of weeks to, I mean, usually, you know, that's safe for college, but she's getting at it early. And your head is, her head is now shaved. What about Juan Juliano, Angus, and Valyria?
Yeah.
Well, Valyria's turning her nose up a little bit at Keela's newfound faith in the divine magics. But, you know, she doesn't say much. She does save a few scraps of the shaven hair for purposes.
So it's interesting. Let's quickly touch on that. So clerical worship, the worship of the gods or the greater beings or whatnot, that is outlawed in Glantri. Glantri does not permit that kind of stuff. The Temple of Rad is a philosophy. Mechanically, it's exactly the same thing as a cleric, but as far as the as far as they're concerned here, it's not like clerical magic in the same way that you know, that like worshiping Thor or worshiping, you know, I don't know, Apollo would be. This is a philosophy that also happens to grant access to power, but they're not prostrating themselves before some kind of god.
Well, then she just probably turning her nose up because she feels like Keela's jumping on a bandwagon and it's leading her down the wrong path.
Well, and it does, Bodo, you can correct us if we're wrong here, but it does sound like Keela is eager to please the professors. So it could...
bit, yes.
Yeah, so this could be... Valyria could be seeing this as, like, fucking apple polisher.
Yeah, like you don't have to go that far.
Yeah.
Valeria's she's going to focus more on alchemical work and study the natural world a bit to kind of supplement her life and death magic. So.
Okay. So one... here's one interesting thing that you'll have to do, though. So in Glantri, one of the guilds is the Corporation of Alchemists. And the Corporation of Alchemists is, in the course of, chatting with the people in Glantri, you have a dispensation because, for things you do on the, on the premises of the Great School that is exclusively for your use or whatever. But if you intend to be, bringing those and selling them in any kind of way or whatnot, you do need to be licensed by the Corporation of Alchemists.
Okay. And
the Corporation of Alchemists are, let's see here. The Alchemists in Glantri must be licensed by the Great School of Magic to legally perform their craft. The purpose of the corporation is to compile knowledge pertaining to their science and make sure it remains utterly secret. There have been cases of alchemists eliminated for openly selling recipes and secrets belonging to the guild. Licensed alchemists are easily recognizable by the blue starred tattoo on their foreheads.
Must I get the tattoo?
No.
Okay. If I do, I'll get it on my right hand.
Well, you're not an alchemist.
Yeah, you know
yet.
what? That does seem pretty obtrusive. It could be anywhere. I think you can get as long as you can display it somewhere so it's conspicuous, like on the back of your hand or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be good. But that's something down the road. So.
Sure. Well, you're in school right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's probably going to use this time to put feelers out and get basic knowledge, so I don't seem like a threat yet. And then, Then the knowledge will be mine.
Okay. So, and then what about Angus and Juan Juliano? What do you guys think? This first month, what's the major undertaking that you guys have involved yourself with?
So my interpretation on this for Juan Juliano is that I think he's used to being in a setting where he's basically the smartest person around, and he can graciously help people with their homework and everything. And I think this is kind of like a shock to him.
Yeah.
Because he's not that anymore.
Yeah.
and so I don't think he's necessarily taking that well. Other than I see him either compensating by going into teachers after hours, especially since he's an evoker specialist, trying to get as much of the teacher's time as he can, to pick his brain individually after class. But I could also see him taking that out on perhaps teaching himself some what do I want to call it? What do you call it? Intrusion skills, I guess. To play jokes on Conclave Wyvern Ring, and that's his outlet, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
And also there's a justification for why he might pick up a rogue class later on.
If you need any potions to help with that, I'm your
Yeah.
But I think he's not necessarily otherwise enjoying this month that much.
Okay.
Right now.
And Juan Juliano does not strike me as the one to suffer silently either. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you can kind of see everyone's sitting around in the common area of your shared quarters there, and you hear.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. Well, I think, but on the other hand, I don't think he wants people to know that he is struggling. So I think he might keep that a little bit. He might just be like, "Oh, I'm bored. Let's go do something else," or something like that.
Yeah.
Probably like that. Yeah.
Okay. And what about Angus?
I think Angus is, like a kid who goes off to college and joins the ROTC and turns out to be thriving. He's got a routine and he's down and he's focused and he's gonna, put his head down and work hard and get shit done.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything particularly specific aside from working on schoolwork, but I think maybe Angus stays up later than everybody else working to, make sure everything is in good condition and all that sort of stuff.
Sure. So the one of the things as well too, I'll toss out for you guys, and I'll go in reverse order here. So Angus, during that time as well, because they're I think someone at one point, and I think it's maybe, everyone's favorite hard-ass, Heinrich Eisenfaust.
I like that guy.
Who actually catches you in, later at night in the courtyard. And you're practicing with your claymore. You're just kind of trying to keep, everything limber, keep your muscle tone up, and also like to have the space to do this stuff. And he walks in, and you can hear him, Is this the work that a student of magic should be undertaking? And you kind of turn around. You didn't realize that he was there.
Surely, all sorts of work are important for us mages. To over-specialize would be to leave ourselves vulnerable if we became outmaneuvered. Found someone who knew more about what we know.
You come from Glantri, yes?
Yes.
Your people, mostly warriors.
Mostly.
And though you have all heard the call, and he's kind of striding through the garden of this, you heard the call of the arcane. You did not leave behind your martial skills. You an able swordsman.
Able enough.
Able enough. And you hear a shing as he draws a rapier that you didn't quite realize he had at his waist. Let us see, Scotsman. And he squares up against you, and he adopts this fighting stance, and it's a fairly tight and rigid style. You've seen Juan Juliano, do his flashy kind of fencing before, but this guy is like rigid, one arm behind the back, rapier facing towards you, and he's now like, we see from the side that he has spaced you perfectly, so you guys are like the center of this garden is effectively like your circle, your fighting circle. And he leans in, and he's just for the first time, you think you maybe see a little bit of joy in this hard ass's in the eyes, not in the face whatsoever. The face is still a mask of disdain and barely controlled fury, but the eyes don't lie, and he seems to wait for your response.
So if he's got a rapier, I'm about to get seriously outmaneuvered because my claymore is a lot slower than that. So I'm gonna half sword and get in a sort of defensive position.
Yeah.
And then if he doesn't make a move, I'm gonna.
No, what you see?
Yeah.
Is his one eyebrow slowly cocks up. You take that to be a sign that he's impressed. And he begins slowly and like military, almost like as part of a march. He's starting to circle around you.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna do my best. I know how this game is played. I'm gonna, focus on my footing right now, stay agile, stay focused, and just kind of match his movements, basically moving around, circling, kind of square off with him.
Yep. So as you're going around, he says again, "For a big man, you move smoothly. Though, I think you could be faster." And he leaps in. Would you give me a reflex save, please?
All right.
They always go for the legs. They always go for the legs.
Catches you right in the shoulder.
Yep.
Thwack. For this little guy, like, you've seen him, he moves around as if he's angry with every step, but he moves very, very quickly here. Whack, and hits him. He's a much more skilled swordsman than what you gave him credit for.
Yep.
He says,
"Well, he's a family of monster hunters, right? So surely they know a little thing or two about fighting."
So he now, has assumed the same stance, the same distance from you. And he says, "The first bite is mine. Will you respond, Scotsman?"
It's a little harder for me to take small bites with this big sword, but we'll see.
Big one.
Good.
You think so? What you need is, and he sort of turns his back towards you and has he turns, I guess, and he places the sword behind you, or behind him. And he says, what you need is control. And he kind of comes running in and ducks to one side and ducks to the other side. Give me another reflexes save, please. Oh, shit.
Worse. I'm
Boom!
going to hero point on that one. That one's so bad.
Okay.
Nope.
So you find yourself on your ass.
Yep.
He's and it's him applying. You're definitely bigger and heavier than he is. He's just applied his weight in such a way to throw you off. You know, like some of the your bigger cousins that you've wrestled with, you know, over the years. This guy would give them a run for their money. What do you do as you know, he once again takes the spot and then kind of carefully and deliberately brings the rapier around. He, you know, marks kind of like an on guard, you know, thing towards you, and then points the sword back at you in the ready position.
So I'm gonna kind of get up to my feet again, and I'm sort of taking a look at my sword, and I'm thinking, okay, let's, you know, if he really wants to try it, let's see what we can do. And I'm gonna get back in that half sword in position, and then I'm gonna do sort of a double strike maneuver, front end this way, and then the pommel right around towards his chest.
Okay. So go ahead and give us an attack roll. Let's see how this goes.
All right.
Whoa, jeez. Okay, so let me check something here. Actually, hold on. So you go running in, and he's ready for the tip of it, and ping, you know, his sword goes to the side, and he's got a lot more strength behind it than what you expect, and he's able to throw that off balance. You, however, correct for this, and he, as you spin the pommel around, it just clips the like him in the temple, and he kind of comes back, and as he you know, kind of like, you know, uses footwork to kind of get distance from you, he's grabbing his head and kind of. He says, "It seems you have teeth too, Scotsman." And he brings the sword in again and says, "Then, shall we see who is hungriest?" And he races in towards you. And we see this sort of like ting, 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 you know, you guys trying to keep each other at bay. Are you really?
I'm sure he's scoring little hits on me all around because he can move about twice as fast as I can with that dinky little sword of his.
Yeah. And it's none of them are actual, like, he's not stabbing you. He is. It's all like, you know, embarrassing welts and whatnot that are being done. He's kind of letting you set the tempo of your response as well too. You get a sense that he's certainly experienced enough that, or a good enough swordsman that he's able to push you to what he senses is your limits.
Yep.
You know, there's definitely times where you feel that he could, you know, that you've left yourself way open, and instead of like landing a killing blow or something like that, he will instead land a cutting word. You know, something embarrassing your, you know, this is why we don't use plowshares to fight wars. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What do you do in response? What's sort of the tempo that you're setting?
So I know that he's better than me, right?
Yeah.
I can definitely tell that. So I'm gonna play along. I'm gonna go, you know, essentially as close to all out without. I'm not necessarily trying to hit him so much as trying to kind of play the game well, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Until I'm, you know, out of it and exhausted, and at that point I'm just gonna, you know, up in the sword and stab it into the ground and sort of lean on it a bit and make it clear that I'm, you know, I've reached my limit.
Okay. You unfortunately don't get any further hits on him. It seems that like he may have let you get that first one, or maybe you did catch him unaware. But yeah, once you hit that point, he says, "Oh, the Scotsman is fatigued before the old man," and very peers back in. Bracing. Tomorrow evening, then. And he turns and starts walking away. And then as he's doing it, too. And your lecture on the siege, your paper on the siege of the Alten Mountains is now 20 pages, not 10.
Oh.
Have it in by morning.
Oh.
Yep, so I'm going to get no rest and be in worse shape for tomorrow's fight.
God.
All right, I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Okay. So that is sort of what's been going on with Angus. I think next up is Juan Juliano. So Juan, you've been trying to play those the pranks on the others, and you've been, a little. It sounds like despondent over the the sort of the grind of this, and what you do have the opportunity. Let me see if I've got an illustration for this dude yet. Okay, so you are in the library. I think you are in the. Yeah, you're probably in the library trying to collect books for yet another thing, and because your elves in this setting are not like Tolkien elves where they're really tall. They're actually a little shorter than humans, and we see you trying to collect stuff, and of course, like shit is on the top of the shelf of the the library, because these bookshelves are the comically high things we see in like.
Angus, I need you.
Yes. And of course, Angus is nowhere to be found. And he's like, and the ladder that you would use is nowhere to be found either. So you're going to have to, kind of figure a way to sort of like parkour your way up to get this thing.
Okay.
Why don't you give us an acrobatics check here? Let's see what plays out. Amazing.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, so what do we see as you sort of like make your way up to the top of this like 8-shelf, bookshelf to get to the book that you actually need?
Oh, I think how far are we imagining these bookshelves to be?
I think they're probably pretty close together.
Okay. Then I think what he's gonna do, he's kind of doing like the mutual wall shimmy thing.
Yep.
Up the sides with one hand on the other and one on the other. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get to the top and you grab this tome, and then you drop down gingerly, and you're kind of like, pleased with yourself that, and you're looking around, and there's unfortunately no one there to praise. And then you look at it, and you realize this is actually volume 6. You needed volume 5.
Okay, so I think this time he's gonna try something a little more complicated. Maybe he'll, I don't know. Let me think what he would probably do.
What are your cantrips that you have ready?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Cantrips. I have Prestidigitation, which I guess you could always use.
Yeah. You don't have Mage Hand, do you?
I don't think I have Mage Hand, actually.
He specialized us and didn't give us certain ones.
Yeah, Electric Arc. Yeah, no, he's gonna. I think he might try again with an Acrobatics, but I think this time he will. I don't know. Maybe he'll what's a different way? Maybe this time he'll try to like do a bouncing back and forth sort of movement to see if he can get up there. It might be a little
sounds
harder,
good.
But, yeah.
Let's see here.
Let's see. Just give another acrobatics check.
Please, yeah. Oh, and Angus gets a hero point for that. Great role playing. Okay, so yeah, you easily doop back up.
This time I kind of want to do like a little somersault plant sort of thing at the end, even though nobody's noticed it.
boom, and you go down.
Yeah.
And yeah, you've got you've got the volume 5, like, and you turn around, and one of the old librarians is standing there looking at you like.
I take a bow.
If you need assistance finding volumes, you can ask, young man.
Where's the fun in that?
The treatise of Angramaris does not help with your boot prints on it.
Oh, I don't know. I find his writing to be a little dry.
Drier now with your print on this.
Well, I guess that's what I feel. To me, I think I did it a favor.
Your conclave mentor will hear of this. And he turns and brings the...
Make sure you mention the somersault.
So, and as you say that, like the whole library kind of like, whoop, everyone's heads kind of come up. And, do you do a bow or
Yeah,
something?
I do another bow. Yeah, I do another bow.
Okay.
Why not?
And you can see the sort of like head bully from the Wyvern Watch or Wyvern Wing Conclave kind of shakes his head and is like, hey, man, they're muttering something amongst each other and all like,
Can I sneak up and throw the cloak over his back of his face?
yeah.
Okay. Sure.
And they all sort of like, chairs and tables all go out and
And I run.
yeah, okay, and you go racing off. Okay, so you go running down the hallways, and you're sort of like laughing, and then you sort of realize that you're kind of like amusing yourself, and you got no one to share the jest with. You pass Angus in the hallway, and you're like, Angus, you won't believe what, and he kind of keeps on going, and Valyria goes by with a big like arm full of glass vials full of a bunch of different things. Valyria, you must have, and right past you. And then Keela walks by, and you're about to say something, and then you see that she's now shaved her head, and you're like,
Interesting change.
you have other matters to attend to.
Yes.
Never mind. So you kind of get back to the common study area, which is now empty. It seems that Albrecht and Toragana are off doing something else as well too. So you sit in there and feeling a bit, lonely, I guess. And that's when you hear kind of, I'm not going to do the knock because my dog's going to lose her mind and run to the door. But you hear a knock. I've learned that from harsh experience. You hear a knock on the frame, and you look over, and there is a man standing there. He looks like he's in his, let's see here. He's probably in his maybe late 20s, and this is what he looks like.
I'm not getting the images for some reason.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Hold on. How about now, guys?
For me, it's okay. I can see it.
Yeah.
I see nothing.
I see nothing.
You guys may have a pop-up blocker on or something. Because
Shouldn't.
it
I
should.
see the window, but no image.
Oh, if you
Yeah.
click on the circle that's in there, what happens?
But there's no.
There's no image to click.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe hit refresh, guys, or
Okay.
reconnect. Sometimes that
I
just
can
needs
see
to.
it.
Yeah, Bodo can see it.
Okay.
Let's see.
How about now?
No.
Under handouts, do you see one called Oronzo Lavala?
Yep.
Yeah. When I click on them, it doesn't show anything either.
Yeah, there's no thumbnail next to his
Oh,
name.
yeah, okay, never mind. I got it. Yeah, I see him.
Okay,
No.
so maybe close it down and open it up again, guys.
Yeah.
Is that
I refreshed. It worked for me.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. One second.
Me too.
Yeah, okay. So this is what the guy looks like. He's not casting spells, but he has got that big book there. He's got that big belly, and he is.
There we go.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, something it's weird. Like if you've got a character sheet open in Roll20 and you change a name on it, sometimes it doesn't change the display name until you close it down and refresh it. So, yes, he looks and he says, "Forgive me. You're a Belkades elf, right?
Yes, I am. Genuine article.
My name is
What can I do for
Oronzo
you?
Lavala. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm a graduate.
Well, what are you doing still hanging around here then?
Well, it seems that my family feels that my skills may be better used servicing the school in the library. I saw you.
My condolences.
Oh, I don't mind. It's to be honest, the schemes and the intrigues of my family, I find them wearisome. But
Not related to this guy.
I understand that you've been to what was the hacienda, or at least you've seen what it's become.
Yes, I am not fond of the redecorating schemes they've done lately.
No, I find that the Moldavian tastes and palate are much cruder than those of your people. I know that they've replaced all of the fine wine cellar with the harsher potato-made liquors that they favor in Moldavia.
I was more concerned about the spider web in the cellar, to be honest.
Were you the ones? I heard that something had happened.
Yes.
But the police seem to be very... well... But such gossip is really not for me. I wanted to know if... Have you had a proper Belkades meal since you've come?
Thinks a little bit, and then he says, "No, I got to remember the last time I had some paella and mussels. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's
It has been. He says, I don't claim to be an expert by any means, but if you would join me for dinner this evening, I have a wonderful recipe for Belkades paella. I have several bottles of wonderful Belkades wine that I have been searching for an occasion to uncork. And if you would indulge me an opportunity to have a mixed palate, if I may be so bold, I have a fantastic d'Amberville trifle recipe if I could make for dessert as well.
Sounds. I would be very honored. It sounds delicious.
Wonderful.
I'm gonna look at. Is this guy human?
Yep.
Okay, so is this guy basically like a wannabe Belkades elf? It seems like that's the vibe I'm getting.
If you give me a perception roll.
Okay, let me. Sheet. There we go. All right, perception.
Oh, perception. Yeah, top right on the character sheet.
I can do the perceive.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. You want to spend a hero point?
Nah.
Nah?
I'll
Okay.
let it pass.
Okay, so he clasps the book to his chest and he says, "Well, wonderful, wonderful. So my quarters are just off of the library. I suspect if you get lost, just follow your nose. Then
I indeed will. I look forward to it.
I'll see you this evening." And he walks off and. So the rest of the the day passes with you kind of studying, and then maybe like Albrecht walks in and you're like gonna tell him about what's happened, and Albrecht just walks right past you into his room and closes the door. You're like, and you open up volume 5 that you needed, and now that you think of it, maybe 4 is what you needed. So you we cut to later in the day, and you're making your way through the through the halls. Everyone is kind of heading off towards meal hall or whatever to get their meals, but you head into the library, which is empty at this time of day because of course students they follow their stomachs at this time. There's maybe 1 or 2 really keen students who are hard at work on some of their, some like last minute paper that's due or whatnot. But as soon as you get in, wow, this is, someone is cooking something that smells very much like home.
Oh, yes. He tries to play it cool, but he's really like salivating when he enters whatever the room this is. Yeah.
So,
all right.
As you make your way, you follow your nose and you get yourself into the kind of his quarters. What you see is, he's got an incredible. There's a really impressive looking trifle that's sitting there, under a bit of a glass dome. There is he is busy, working on some, kind of dish, and you can see there's an imp that is kind of like chopping up something to make some kind of salad. And you're looking around, and there's on one side of, or one corner of this room, there are a whole bunch of books, including the one that he was carrying with him. And you realize that they're not spell books. They're cookbooks.
Oh.
And he gestures, without thinking, he gestures back, and you can see like their magic manifests, and some, like a pepper mill or something kind of drifts over to his hand, and he, goes into there as well too. He turns to the imp, and he says, "Sulphurous, these chives should have been cooked, should have been added before." And the imp just says, "I'm sorry, master," and brings the chives over and dunks them in there too. And then he sort of the imp looks over and he says, "Be warned, master, we're not alone." And he looks over, and his Alonzo's face lights up, and he says, "Juan Juliano, you came, wonderful, wonderful." And he says, "So furious, this is a friend." And he says, "I'm sorry, master. Hello, friend."
Hello, friend. Sulphurous, did I hear the name correctly?
Sulphurous is my name. You can call me what you will, master. And he says, Alonzo sort of gestures and says, "That's enough, Sulphurous, that's enough." And he, his wings, kind of tiny wings, propel him up, and obviously, like, they're far too small to be able to actually let this imp fly, but it propels him up magically to a kind of a perch above where he sits. And he says, please, Juan Juliano, have a seat. Dinner will be ready shortly. But first," and you can see he's got made a good dent into one of these bottles already, and he quickly pours a glass and hands it over to you. He says, "See if this fits your palate."
Okay, I do so. Do this, swill it around my mouth, get the mouth feel in there.
Yeah.
Palate, what it got.
This wine is exquisite. It is this would be something welcome at the most fashionable tables in Balcadies for sure.
Right,
and you're looking around, and your initial suspicion that this guy may be, a wannabe Balcadies elf is quickly dispelled, because you can see that among the cookbooks are not only things, from around, around all parts of Glantri, all the different principalities, all parts of the known world, including Irendi cooking, and meals of the a scholarly treatise that is like the dishes of the Yalari Desert. There's even like full-on research things about Millennian culture, or Millennian palate, or not palate, menus. So this guy seems like a genuine, just a gourmand, a scholar of, gastronomy?
Yeah.
Yeah. He also has, he says, "Sulphurous, the appetizers." "Yes, master." And he goes into this kind of magically chilling chamber, and he brings out some chilled oysters for you.
Ooh.
So you can tell from all the different things that are kind of on the go, it reminds you of Valyria's lab. There seems to be a bunch of things that are, in the course of being prepared here. What happens in the evening? You're free to direct the conversation wherever you want. This guy just likes chatting and loves food.
I suggest, friend, perhaps if you consider that a library may not be your calling. That was quite expensive.
This is everyone must have a task that keeps them. This is my passion, you must say, and my research, mind you. It's not just, and he slaps his fat belly. It's not just for satisfying my my own urges, as my father likes to say.
Well, it is a good hobby at that. I think it could make a fine living, to be honest.
I am content. I have my place. I have my kitchen, and we have in Glantri City, we have access to all the finest ingredients that we might want.
Yes, well, I must say, to what do I owe this pleasure? Is this something you offer to most of the students here?
Oh, no. Most students here, they're so focused on their magical studies and the arcane that they fail to realize that there is more more to life than simply mastering some simple conjurations and tricks. You seemed, with the lack of the closing of the hacienda, or at least the transfer, it seemed that you would have very little other place to enjoy. And I mean, in my past experience, who but your people enjoys the delights of the pleasures to be found in the palate, as your people do.
Yes, we do tend to have we are tend to be known for to be people of taste.
And I don't mean to suggest that it is trivial. I have the firm belief that to treat the enjoyment of life as a trivial pursuit is a foolish way and an incomplete way to see life. Your people seem to have a more complete and holistic perspective. Would you agree?
His head is just getting bigger and bigger. It's far to me to disparage the cultures of other people, you understand, but I can see your point.
Of course, everything has value. And speaking of every culture having value, if we leave that trifle any longer, I fear that Sulfurious may get into it. And you hear Sulfurious say, "No, master! I was Sulfurious would never eat that for you!" And he says sarcasm. Sarcasm is lost on the denizens of the lower plains.
Well, I will, and I do cut into the trifle a little bit. I might even offer a little bit of a dab to Sulfurious.
Okay.
At least.
He kind of takes a bite and he says, "Sweet! So horribly sweet! Terrible, awful things! Sulfurious is sorry for whatever offense Sulfurious may have offered."
I don't know what to say.
He kind of shakes his, Alonzo says, "I see that your studies have not reached the denizens of the lower plains. Sweeter and more decadent foodstuffs do not agree with the palate of the even the lesser demons." And you can see Sulfurious is just trying to like throw up whatever he's eaten, and he grabs a brush and is rubbing it across his tongue.
Yeah, it's a good show. Well, this is well noted. I will keep that in mind.
Is there anything you want to? I mean, one thing that Ronzo does have, he is he's quite the chatty Cathy. So if you do want to, try and not that you would necessarily like try and trick him or anything, but like if you want to direct the conversation towards anything, he definitely is happy to talk about anything.
See, well then I say like, would you mind? I'm in search of a little books to help me with my more holistic experiences at school.
Indeed.
Do you happen to know any picks about the mechanism of locks, perhaps?
The mechanisms of locks.
Yes.
Indeed. Yes.
Both arcane and mundane. I'm interested in.
Are you looking for something of a more studious approach, clever engineering, or something of more practical application?
Maybe a little more practical. As we all need a hobby, as you say.
I have several. There is a fascinating treatise by a... it comes from Rockholm. Can you read Dwarvish?
Oh, I cannot say that I do, to be honest. Well, maybe I do. Hold on a second. What do I read languages? No,
His wine has gone to my head.
No, I do not. I am unfortunately unversed in the crude tongue of the dwarves.
Then you would need dispensation from one of the librarians to have access to one of the translate stones.
What is that? I assume you would be in position to maybe offer.
He kind of like gets himself up and he pats his belly, satisfied that it's full of 2 helpings of paella. Makes his way over to one of the books, and he pulls the one on Millennium culture, and he brings it over to you, and he grabs also this thing that looks like kind of imagine like a spyglass, but without a handle on it, and it's thicker too. And he brings this thing over and puts the book down in front of you, and he puts it open and turns it towards you. And he says, "I trust that you cannot read Millennium writing either."
I must say that you have described me to a T.
Yeah, there are few who can. And he says, "This is why," and he holds up this lens thing. He says, the translate stones are so key. And he places it down on top of it, and what you see is that the words underneath shimmer, and they now are in common. And you're able to move it along, and you can read these things. He says, "We have limited numbers of these, but this is my personal copy. One of the advantages of being a librarian on staff. Should you need access to with the script in any of the more complex tomes, this certainly would be of assistance." The book I was thinking of is it is the life's work of a notorious dwarven rogue. One who, quite contrary to his people's inclinations, was a notorious thief. He indeed saw his purpose in life to confound the work of those he deemed lesser men. In the hands of more morally questionable individuals, some could see it as a manual for learning to defeat the mechanisms intended to secure boxes, cases, chests, and doors, indeed. You may also see it simply as a fascinating read on the complex mechanisms. It gets even into the very advanced gnomish engineering locks that they crafted, and my copy that I have even has the appendix that deals with the complexities of dwarvish engineering and dwarvish engineered locks. Those for safes, say. Is that what you were looking for, Juan?
This is very much along the lines of what I was looking for. Thank you very much.
I will have it waiting for you at the hold desk.
Oh, and one more thing. I just had a little question. What is how well are you familiar with Valentin Vestimirovich?
Valentin Vestimirovich, the professor.
Yes. Are you very well acquainted about any personal tastes or things he might have a weakness to?
Oh, I see. He has been teaching at this school. I studied under him. He was not my primary instructor. I understand he has been attached to your conclave as effectively your primary professor. What do you call your conclave again?
Conclave of
Slivers?
Flinders.
Flinders, yes.
Yes.
Such creative names.
We thought so.
Then, for him, he, I think that his, there is a Moldavian sour apple treacle that he is particularly fond of. Now, it may have been many years since he had access to he had tasted a sour apple treacle, but I happen to have, and he turns and he kind of shoos Sulfurious away, because he's sitting on some of his books, and he pulls one of them down. He says, "Yes, I happen to have a recipe for a sour apple treacle. Might it assist you in acclimatizing to and ingratiating yourself to your professor?"
It's I hope so. I think it could become quite useful.
We shall have. I think that we picked up sour apples in our last grocery run. So, if not tomorrow, the day after then.
Very well.
Allow it to be my welcome gift for you. What's going on with my camera today? Jeez. Allow it to be my welcome gift to you, then, Juan Hodiano.
You have done more than enough, but this is always appreciated. Let me know if I can possibly do you a favor, if need be. If you perhaps need to, maybe a lesson in your sword play, I'd be happy to offer.
He says, "I have no call for sword play. If sword play is needed, I have sorely made I have made some errors in judgment in my life that will no doubt deserve whatever consequences befall me.
Yeah, this guy's totally not Balkanese.
If I might be so bold, perhaps we could do this again in a week.
I would be honored.
It would be me that would be honored to have you in my kitchen. Right. Isn't that right, Sulfurious? Yes, master! So, with that, he finishes up or you guys finish up the meal. The dishes and whatnot are left to Sulfurious, and you head back. The next day, you stop by the library, and you have this really and I think the name of the tome is about as blunt as you would have expected. And the title of the thing, it's this massive, like, beautiful red leather bound book. It's got brass highlights on it, and the title of the book is Locks and the Morons That Made Them.
He appreciates that title.
Awesome.
So you put the book under your arm, and then you now have your first study into the how to defeat the locks. Okay, so guys, we are at our halfway point right now. Why don't we take our break to refresh our beverages? I'll grab some more coffee, and then we'll come back and do the scenes with Valyria and with Keela.
Nice.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Oh. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Get rid of that. Yeah, there's old Valentin. Valentin Vastimirovich.
He looks like he'd like a sour apple treacle.
He would, yeah. Getting caught in his beard, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so I don't have an illustration for this guy yet, but we will going in. Hey, Flame and Longshot are in chat. Hey, Flame! Coffee for the coffee people. And Flame asks, how's it going, Jonathan and Brandon?
Good, good.
It's going.
So, next up we'll do Valyria. So, Valyria, in the course of your month, there is one little bit, or one little surprise that shows up. And the surprise is from your papa.
Oh, great.
Your
Never knew
papa?
when you leave well enough alone.
Papa, it seems, has purchased another alchemical recipe for you.
Okay.
Prepaid. So you are, I think you have access to first level alchemical things, is that right?
Yeah, I have 4 recipes, it looks like.
You have 4 recipes. Okay, so you have, what he's done is, through the Corporation of Alchemists, he has purchased another one for you. So you need to go down and select it.
Okay.
Okay, so you at first you are hopeful that you could find something in your, or I guess one of the things that you find in the course of your studies is that the library itself seems frustratingly barren of any meaningful alchemical texts, and if you were of the more suspicious mind, oh, and John, yes, to your secret question, yes.
Okay, cool. I have a project for that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you would, if you were of the more suspicious bent. I think one of the things you definitely know is that the rival conclaves and sometimes even the rival students, they will do things like hide books, like tear out pages and shit like that, hoping that they won't get caught for it. So it can be a pretty cutthroat, experience here. But even the intentional, absence, it seems, of so many of these alchemical tomes, like even things that you find in the card catalog, there's a talking card catalog that you can go to, and you've got to the places on the shelf where these books should be, and they're all gone. And checking with the librarians, they tell you that it isn't Aronzo and the older guy who is the head librarian. They tell you that it's not, they haven't been checked out. They're on the shelf. They insist they're on the shelf. And if you bring them there, they say, well, I don't know. One of the students must have misfiled it. Aronzo, did you misfile this? But fortunately, you hear about this Alchemical Corporation.
Okay.
Or the Corporation of Alchemists. So apparently you can go there. Now, we'll pick up the scene with you heading out. You got yourself dressed up in your very best black dress and black shawl and black gloves, as is appropriate for it. And I forget, you're familiar. It is a cat.
Black Raven.
Black Raven, right.
Yeah. Julio has Julio has the cat.
Right. Your cat is Nicodemus, is that right?
For one?
Can't remember.
I don't know. My Raven's name is Toby, I believe.
Oh, Toby, right. And then what's your cat's name?
Azrael.
Azrael, right. Okay. So the Valyria, you take a gondola. It's a, as far as Glantri and days go, it's quite lovely. The traffic on both the foot traffic on the bridges and on the walkways and the gondola traffic is moderate. And you finally find yourself to the Corporation of Alchemists. And let me see if I've got a position on the map I can tell you. Give me a sec here. Okay. I gotta say as well too, like for those listening at home, almost all of the I'm adding a lot of stuff in here as well too, but the sheer amount of story stuff that is available in this Principalities of Glantri product is staggering. I'm not sure I could think of a product that has more amazing story ideas in it than what this one does. I think there's probably ones that maybe equal it, but there's just so many fucking cool ideas in here. It is a DM's dream. Okay, I actually can't find where... Let's see, there's a place where you'll all die. Oh, did I read it out loud? Sorry.
We ascend to level 9.
Yeah. I'm gonna give me 2 more seconds. I just want to see if I've got it in. Oh, you know what you do see dominating the skyline, of course, is the Tower of Sighs. Ooh. And I think a chill runs down your spine thinking of those. What do you call it? Those masked inquisitors that you saw, and even in the light of the mid-morning, you still feel a chill run through you. Fortunately, you turn your eyes from that, and you're distracted by the many, many and wild things. You see that in a cage on the side of one of the plazas that you pass, someone has actually caged a griffin. This giant thing is kind of banging against the cages. No doubt part of the Monster Handlers League. Where is it here? Monster Handlers Syndicate. And you can see that whoever is effectively a stevedore is in some kind of very, very heated argument with the person who has delivered these. Apparently, that the bars are not complying with some kind of local ordinance. So, like, this thing is able to go out and try and claw, and you got a bunch of guys who are trying to figure out how to be able to move this box because without getting mauled by this griffin in a cage. But your eyes once again, focus on the task at hand. Valyria is not one to be distracted by trifles, and what you find yourself is passing into the business quarter. The business quarter is, or the merchant's quarter, I should say. Merchant's quarter is right here. Actually, not far from the school, but you're at the far end here. Okay. Is where you're going to be heading. And you head up, and then what is there is this big black brick building that has a very thick and sturdy kind of look to it. It almost feels like a squat. The building looks smaller than what it actually is, just by virtue of how it has that sturdy kind of squatting silhouette to it. And you go up, and as you walk in, you can see that if you can picture like what an Old West bank is like, where there's that kind of like open area where you can fill out forms in the middle, but then there's big gates and what do you call it, like bars and stuff around each of the sides, and there's tellers behind. That's what you walk into. And the sign, of course, out front is is Corporation of Alchemists, Glantri City, established, and then whatever year the establishment is. You walk in, and there's maybe 2 or 3 kind of like chemical stained wretches, all wearing the same kind of like caps and long black robes, who are collecting something from behind and furtively stuffing them inside the bags that are with them, clutching the bags to their chests. And as one of them walks by, and you can see it's actually this one has one of his eyes is completely opaqued over with either an injury or with cataract, and he shoots his one good eye at you, and kind of it darts up and down like he's looking at you like you were a tasty morsel, and then heads out the door. What are you doing?
Well, she's glaring daggers at the guy as he walks out the door.
Yeah.
And she's gonna walk up to the desk and I'm sure her father said a writ or a receipt or something.
Yes.
So she's gonna walk up and say, "I've come to cash this in. Can you direct me to where I need to go?"
And the clerk is this. To be honest, he could be a twin of the person who just walked out. The only difference being is that he's wearing some kind of like Renaissance era suit with like some frills and whatnot on it, and he looks down at the slip in front of him, and then he looks up at you. He says, "Are you certain that you are in the correct location, madam?"
She looks at the receipt and then back up at him. "Am I not?"
And he takes the receipt. Wait there. And he turns and heads back. And you see that they're at the back of the sort of the room that's beyond. And they've like the height. I can't remember. Valyria is only like 5'7" or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like she's not very tall. Yeah. So you're kind of having to be on like tippy toes to sort of look over here to see all the way back. And what you can see behind is there's all this shelving and whatnot, and there's people who are busy, and none of them seem to be having a good time even remotely. But in the back in the far corner, there's a big desk, and behind the desk, there is a guy who he's probably in his like maybe mid-30s, late 30s. He has a like long hair. He has a long mustache that kind of curls out to the side. He's got a little wisp of a beard underneath, but otherwise is clean shaven. Brown hair, and he wears these strange spectacles that kind of sit on his nose. Through which he's looking, and he's quite handsome, and he's dressed in a a light gray tailored suit with kind of like a white shirt underneath, and this vibrant like scarlet cravat at his neck. And he seems to be busily working on things, and the guy who was such a dick to you goes walking over to this guy, and his body language screams submission as he walks up to this guy and kind of, waits to get attention. And you can see, you can't hear what's being said, but the guy at the desk says something, and then there's a bit of a back and forth, and the guy at the desk doesn't even look up. He just keeps talking, and then he finally stops whatever he was working on. There seems to be a bunch of books and there's baskets at his table that have a bunch of paperwork in it as well. And he looks up at him, and he places his hand out, and the clerk goes up and puts it in his hand. He takes it, looks at it. The man behind the desk pushes the thing back, grabs a top hat, places it on his head, and he walks over in your direction. And the clerk is following very closely behind the guy. And this guy walks up, the guy behind the desk walks up, and one second here, please. The thing I was supposed to do during the break, instead of focusing on coffee and hugging my dog. 1 second here. Mm-hmm. So he walks up, and you can see that the glasses are actually have like a bit of a like dusky rose tint to them. He's genuinely wearing rose-colored glasses, and he walks up to the desk, and then kind of claps his wooden or heels on the ground on the wooden floor, and says, "Good morning, madam. I am Rudolph Sunkenstar. I am one of the managers at the Corporation of Alchemists. I understand that your father very generously provided you with a gift of a kind. Now, you must understand that even with such a generous price as what your father paid, Alchemy is a restricted activity in Glantri City. I'm not certain if you were aware of that, but if you would not mind, I would enjoy the presence of your company for a conversation so that we might understand better who we are turning the recipes over to. Do you have time for that?
Okay. So as he was approaching her, she gave him like a once over kind of look up and down.
Yep.
And she actually approves of the outfit and the rose-colored glasses. Kind
Okay.
of stylish. So she like sets her shoulders back a little bit, puts on a little air of confidence, but not too much because she doesn't want to, get in his authority sphere.
Yep.
And she responds, "I have put aside the day in order to have any conversations you wish. So my time is yours."
Spectacular. Please. And you hear this clink, and right to the side, it seems that there's actually a hidden door, and one of the things it pulls back, one of the little wickets, it pulls back, and you're able to go in the back. And one of the alchemists, who is the one that was left in there, the other old guy who was purchasing something, he looks over and he gives you this kind of incredulous look like, how the hell is she getting back there?
She just gives him one of those sly little grins and a raised eyebrow, and then turns and follows him.
Okay. So you head back there, and he leads you back past his desk, and you can see that everything is conspicuously turned over as well too. There's nothing. If you spare a look over at his desk, there's nothing on there that gives any indication of what was being written down. He leads you back to a room, and he gestures for you to join him. The room that you are in is it appears to be some kind of I think it's some kind of storage area. So it's got a small desk in there, maybe somewhere for people to eat their meals. But if you're looking around, there's just it's a treasure trove of alchemical the materials or ingredients that you would use to craft your things. And I'm not sure you've ever seen such riches in person at one time. So how is Valyria reacting to this?
Well, she's trying to internalize most of it, so not let slip the wonder, because she's come to bargain. But she's on the inside. She's kind of marveling at it, like she wants this.
Sure.
This is something she wants access to.
Why don't you give me a deception check? Let's see how well you're doing in to avoid looking like tourists in New York City kind of thing.
Come on, luck. Oh, damn.
Good. Oh, Juan Juliano, you got a hero point for the role playing too. Okay, so to roll with that really disastrous result, that is a crit failure.
I want to hero point that. Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't do better.
Oh,
but maybe it's not a crit failure this time.
So what is it? I think she probably says something out loud. What is it that she says out loud?
She probably invokes the name of her ancestors just under her breath as she sees everything. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Vela Valduva.
Yeah.
And he turns back and looks you up and down. It says, "I trust that you are suitably impressed by our stock."
Suitably is not the word I would use. She keeps looking around, her eyes a little wider.
Indeed. We are the preeminent importers of the important ingredients used in the craft of alchemy, and as I am certain that you can appreciate, the dangers that can come from an inexperienced individual indulging in our science may lead them to great peril, not only for themselves, but for our fine city as well. Now, I understand. Let me quickly hit refresh here. I lost John there.
Yeah, I'd lost my map, so I had to refresh real quick.
Oh, okay. Sure. I still cannot see you, John. Can anybody see John? Oh, here we... No. There you are. You're back. Okay.
Yep.
So, he says, he takes the brim of his hat and carefully takes the hat off. He places it down on the table and has a seat. And with...
Valyria uncovers her head.
Okay.
From her hood.
I understand, madam. And he you as he sits down, he says, has the day been pleasurable for you thus far?
I have no complaints. My time in the city was rough at first and a little rocky, but over the last
Rough?
few weeks, yeah.
How so?
Surely you've heard rumors of the hacienda.
The hacienda. Oh, that Belcadiz establishment.
Indeed. And the little critters inside?
Critters. So,
Have you not heard?
what is, so what you, well, Amber, let's do this. Why don't you give us let me think here. Give us a society roll, please. Let's see how much you've kind of picked up on kind of the doings here.
Society.
Nice. Okay, so what you would know is, and especially given your recent experience with the secret police, it appears that in the broadsheets that make the rounds in Glantri City, no one has heard, no one's heard anything about this. It may not be surprising, being that you come from Moldavia. You can understand why the presence of a lycanthropic outbreak may be suppressed by the city and by the secret police.
Well, as a society that prizes secret knowledge like the Alchemists do, this is a bargaining chip.
So do you want would you still have brought up the trouble there, or would you have alluded to something different?
Oh, I would have alluded to it.
Okay.
But Valyria says the secret police were involved, so I'm not sure I should speak of it.
He kind of looks. Oh, if the secret police of it were involved, then I trust that it is no business of my own.
She raises an eyebrow.
The door opens, and you see one of the clerks comes in with tea, and he puts his tray down. He puts tea for each of you, and then he leaves, and what Rudolph Sunkenstar says is, have you seen the such as this before? And he gestures to what's before you, and in place of like a sugar cube kind of thing, what there's a bowl with a little set of tongs in it, but each of the cubes has a distinctly different color and pattern on it.
He looks down at it and studies it. Is there something I can roll to see if I...
Yeah, why don't you give me a crafting roll, please? Nice. Yeah, so you're not sure. I don't think you rolled well enough to be able to identify specifically what each of them are, but you've heard of this. This is something, it is a way of adding exotic flavoring to tea. It's an alchemical little indulgence.
Valyria raised an eyebrow and looked at him like, I've seen these before. I'm always fascinated how they make the flavors change so much.
It's your studies. It seems that you do indeed have some knowledge of our craft. And he gestures in.
I dabble with what I can get from the natural world, but only for personal use, mind you.
I see. So it does seem that you are aware of the restrictions of our agreement with the Great School, then, as to the practice of alchemy within Glantri City.
I do hear things, and I try to stay out of trouble.
Then, and he gestures towards the bowl with the tongs. He says, "If I may, my lady."
She nods.
And he picks up the tongs with great flourish and says, "Sweet or savory?"
A little bit of both.
And he digs in and grabs something from near the bottom, and it has kind of a it has like a orange kind of cast to it, and it's very much like imagine if a sugar cube was made of raw sugar, where it's got different size granules in it, and then within it there are tiny flecks of purple as well.
Oh.
And he holds it out over the tea and he places it in. And what color does the tea turn, and what does it smell like once that's in there, Valyria?
Well, Not sure. I'd probably go a slight orange tinge to it, but it depends on the makeup of the tea. So I'm guessing they use like a blackened tea, so it would lighten it up to like a coffee cream color.
Okay, nice. And what is the scent?
Maybe cinnamon blended with some citrus.
Nice. Okay. So this wonderful, aroma kind of fills, and Rudolph seems impressed and kind of nods and says, "An excellent choice." And he picks one for himself, and he drops it in there. He says, "I lend towards sweet myself." And he drops it in there, and it turns kind of like a almost like a thick red. So it's almost like again, like imagine if you had like milk, like it's not strawberry milk, but like milk the color of like red velvet cake. And then that was dropped in there. So this fills up with that, and the smell from his is a more like rounded kind of sweet flavor or scent.
Okay.
So he raises the tea glass and or mug, and he gestures towards you and takes a sip from it.
She does as well.
So then he places it down. He says, "Now, I understand from your father's surname, you are originally from Moldavia, then."
I am indeed. First of my family to go to the great school, and the first magic user that I'm aware of.
So I hear. It seems that your father has found favor with your Prince Morphael.
He likes to stick his nose into things and pull strings.
Well, money does open many doors in many nations. But it does seem that your father is aware that it is magic that rules the day in Glantri.
Indeed. In his eyes, I'm likely nothing more than a pawn to be used as he sees fit, but I have other plans.
Your father, though, is most generous. It appears that he has, his gift to the corporation is most appreciated. Tell me, who did you, or from whom did you learn the teachings of alchemy that you have mastered thus far?
Well, the craft that I know is mostly just based on natural herbs and things you find in nature. So it was my grandmother that taught me the beginnings of and how to expand on my knowledge.
Your grandmother?
Yes.
What was her name?
Good question.
Is she from the Vaduva clan, or is she from somewhere else?
She would have been on the mother's side, so not from Vaduva.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So let's give me a sec here.
Yeah. Name your grandmother. Never thought
Let's
about that.
take a look here at. Okay.
You just say, well, I always called her grandma, so I don't even know her real name.
She taught me when I was really young, yeah.
So her name was Selena. I'm trying to find one iteration here that kind of rolls off the tongue. Viktorovna. Selena Viktorovna.
Okay.
And when you say that, he kind of, his eyebrows kind of arc above those rose glasses that, cling to the bridge of his nose. And he says, your grandmother was Selena Viktorovna?
I believe so. I was young when she taught me. Yes, I'm certain of it.
Fascinating. That is she alive still, or is she passed on?
I think she would have passed on, because if she'd been alive, Valyria most likely would have been pulled fully into alchemy instead of developing magic. So.
Love it. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Okay, cool. Then the what he says is when says then I trust that's I did not know that your father married into the Viktorovna family.
As I said, he likes to get his nose into places, and beneficial marriage is not beyond him.
Indeed. Then, I trust. I feel I need no more questions. Then, if you are the granddaughter of Selena Viktorovna, then it is self-evident as to where your talent for alchemy originates. Now, and he takes another sip of the tea. I should say, young lady, that of course, breeding means very little in our exacting science.
Indeed. I don't expect any handouts from my heritage, but to prove myself through my own exploits.
Of course.
The name is just a knock on the door. I must earn my way in.
Indeed. The name of Selena Viktorovna is a great bearing to of which to live up to. And he gets up and says, I wonder what your grandmother would feel about you attending the great school. I never had the pleasure of meeting the Grand Dame herself, but...
Well, I remember from when I was younger, she was very earnest in me learning alchemy, but when I just showed sign of developing magic, she highly encouraged me to do so, because mages are positions of high power in the country, although I've always had that urge to know the alchemy. I don't feel complete without it.
I understand that sentiment. Perhaps better than you might appreciate, Ms. Vaduva. And he picks up a top hat and places it back on his head again. He says, might I escort you elsewhere?
Indeed. And she'll finish off the tea.
Yep.
And, like one big toss back and stands.
Okay. So he leads you into another room, out into the hallway and then into another room. And this room is full of shelves. And on these shelves, there is tons of scrolls, all kind of tied up. And then he says, your father's generosity is welcomed. And knowing that his donation is for the granddaughter of Selena Viktorovna, please, peruse what we have available. Select two within your two that are within your knowledge. So you're actually going to get 2 recipes.
With that, Valyria gives him like a beaming smile that she doesn't give most anybody.
Okay.
And
so you start looking up and down the rows, and then while you're doing that, you notice that someone comes in. One of the clerks comes in. He whispers to this clerk something, and the clerk goes off. So you don't need to make the selection right now. You can, between now and next session, let me know what 2 ones you added, and you'll have counted as learning those as well too.
Nope.
So you'll
I do know which one I'm going to get.
Yeah, what's that?
Because she's going to be an alchemist, she's going to learn a mutagen, which is the key signature of an alchemist. Interesting.
So you will learn that, but because you don't have the multi-class feat just yet, you would take the penalty of consuming the mutagen.
Okay, so alchemists don't take the penalty when they consume it?
Well, no, it's just that if it counts as poison, if anyone other than, right? Like, you take the penalty that comes from the mutagen, but you don't get the benefits of it, so...
But yeah, so she's going to pick the Quicksilver mutagen.
Awesome! Okay, cool.
And then I suppose if I can get 2, I can probably get another one. She'll get the Juggernaut Mutagen as well.
Oh, cool.
So, not Juggernaut. She can't use it if it's poison for somebody else.
Well, again, like you can make that decision between now. It's you're not really going to have an opportunity to make use of it this session anyway. So think it over. Pick 2 recipes. So and then we can picture Vaduva like a kid in some kind of shop, wandering around, looking up and down, pulling out these recipes, looking over them, and like what you can find is there are so many of these recipes that are just. That moment when you realize a little bit about something and then you realize just how little you know, and when you're in the presence of true greatness, you're looking at this stuff and you're just like, I'm not even sure I could begin to comprehend the formulae that I'm looking at right now for some of these. And I think maybe Mr. Sunken Star is actually a little amused by it too, and he says, perhaps the formulae on the right, young lady. And this...
She goes through and she reads the title and then the ingredients and what they're supposed to do, and she makes decisions based on what she sees.
Great.
The most useful.
Excellent. Okay, cool. So you got those things. And once you've kind of selected those things and you got them, he gets them secured for you in a leather folio to protect them from the elements.
Yeah. She pulls out... she has 2 books, an alchemical formula book and her spell book, and she pulls out her both books, and the alchemical formula is in much better condition and much more better maintained than the other one. Mostly because she doesn't flip through the other one as much. So, but she does it just kind of like to show off a bit, because it's Selena's one of her old ones that she's taking good care of.
Nice. So. And as you're on your way out, you got the Sunken Star is still making a little bit of casual conversation, and says, and apart from the unfortunateness of your initial impressions and the matter with the secret police, I trust that your studies have been going well, Ms. Vaduva?
I give my studies all. They can do nothing but go well.
Indeed.
The magic's just like a formula for alchemy and just as volatile, but I have a much better grasp on that than alchemy.
So he leads you over to where that secret door is, and then like the clerks are still kind of busy behind the desk. People are coming into the front, and he stops, and looks down at you because he's towering over you, and that top hat even accentuates the height as well too. And he turns and says, Ms. Vaduva, it has been a true pleasure and a great honor to meet the granddaughter of the Grand Dame. And he takes his hat off, and he does this long bow and places it back on, and somehow those glasses still don't fall off his nose in spite of the deep bow. And then he turns, and he says, and as a welcome to the Glantri city, and to someone who I hope who I am certain will become a licensed member of the Corporation of Alchemists at the appropriate time. And he turns, and there's that clerk he spoke to before, hands him something, and he turns and places it over to you. And he says, this is one of my most treasured of tomes, but I feel it inappropriate to be in my possession if you do not have one of your own. And you take it and you turn the book over. He's done it in a way so it like you have to turn it over to reveal it. And as you turn it over, you see it's an old and fairly simply bound folio. It's not very big, maybe like 170 pages or something like that. And the thing that stands, the lettering on the front that gives the title, and the title is Common Elixirs of the Moldavian Countryside. But the name is obviously what stands out to you. The name in kind of gold lettering at the bottom is Selena Viktorovna.
Ooh.
And you don't have a copy of that. I'm not sure you even knew that existed.
Nope. Did not. So she's going to give him a deep bow and thank him and say, I'm sure I'll see you again when I come for my license.
And he nods. He says, we will look forward to greeting you. Good luck with your studies, Ms. Vaduva. And have a pleasurable day.
So she leaves with like a beaming smile that she eventually catches and turns into more neutral.
Yeah, so
there's a little skip in her step until she catches herself.
So you're sort of going along, and Toby kind of looks at you and kind of. Rah!
Don't be a spoil sport.
Rah, rah. He takes off into the sky to sort of circle around. You bark at one of the gondoliers to call him over, and you get yourself back in and make your way back to the great school.
Nice.
So, finally, who has patiently been waiting for his time in the spotlight, we return to Keela. So, Keela, let's talk a little bit about what brought you to the decision to shave your head. Now, has Keela been aware? I mean, she would have known about the lack of, of clerics in here. The Brotherhood, where is it here? The Temple of Rad. Let's see here. As I said, they are more philosophers than they are, priests. But let me see here. But what they do offer is, in terms of magical services, is the same, the same kind of services like healing and whatever else that clerics would provide in other, other settings.
As Angus was wounded through the spider, so I couldn't do anything, and nobody else could help him. So I decided to,
okay, so
do
it's a crisis
about it and be the person who can actually save them from dying. This is I heard that this is a really easy spell for a priest to stop someone from dying, and maybe one day can cast heal to heal the group.
Okay. So, what? I think before she shaves her head, then this scene will take place before that. Maybe it's what partly leads up to the decision to fully, become one of the shepherds of Rad. So you had your way back down to the small. I don't think it's called a shrine. It is likely called. What is the word for? It's not sutra, because that's an actual text. What is the name for like a Tibetan shrine or a Tibetan thing? I thought there was a word.
Stupa.
Stupa. Thank you. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. So you head down to the stupa that is made up, and it has a very specific. It definitely stands out from the rest of the buildings that make up the great school, and once again, you're I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, but it seems like Keela probably can't go past trees or whatever else or living things without kind of like touching them and
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you go by and you're sort of touching the trees that make up the courtyard, and you make your way towards the stupa, and you can hear coming out from the structure, you can hear that same chant, that was being intoned before by some of the junior shepherds. Knowledge is light, light in the mind. I mind the ways of Rad. Rad is the source of knowledge. Knowledge is light, light in the mind. I mind the ways of Rad. Rad is the source of knowledge. And this is being intoned over and over again. And as you walk up, you can see that there is probably some kind of like a little pool or a little basin of water that you would use to like ritually purify before you enter the stupa. And Sister Shepherd Juliana walks out with that bald head again, and she begins filling the water basin up from a a canister, and she's intoning that quietly under her breath as she does that. Then she looks up and sees you approaching, and she says, "Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Ms. Keela. The light of Rad upon you. I trust the day finds you well."
Yes, I want to learn more about your. Also, I want to help people, like you did, and maybe someday I can free other people from the curses which you have done in the past.
I see. You wish to grow in the light of Rad.
Yes.
I trust you don't seek to abandon your studies, though.
No. I am here for. I'm the first one in here in this school, and it's very important for my family. So, but in my free time, I will always be available for you. If you have time, I will be there.
I thought we as shepherds always have time to bring those who seek it into the light of Rad. The light of Rad, knowledge is light in the mind. I mind the ways of Rad, and Rad is the source of knowledge. And she nods as if that should mean anything to you. And she says, then, what's the word you have for it? Extra studies. That is what you pursue. Indeed. Tell me, then, what do you know of the study of Rad thus far? Do you have any points? Are you trained in divine? What is it called? Or in religion, rather?
I have only the modifier there, so
so you're not.
I'm not trained in religion.
Okay, so. So yeah, I mean, I think what you find yourself at present is a bit unequipped to even really grapple with the most basic of the principles. Let's see here. Yes. So then she says, perhaps then light begins with the striking of a match. Let me offer you that match, and she offers you a bunch of books and scrolls and such. And she says, start with these, and we will talk. I am at your disposal, Keela. So maybe what we see is, you now poring over these books, and in addition to your work, you're beginning to learn these things. Now, one of the options you can do in your downtime is you can spend a week and retrain. So you can shift a skill from being trained to another skill. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what? Let's do that. So what skill? It looks like you. So anything that's got a 3 in the proficiency thing, that is something you are trained in right now. So can you pick something that you want to change from being trained in to not trained or untrained, and then we'll give you training in religion?
I think I would switch occultism to religion.
Okay. So let's go here. So occultism. So you're lapsing in that, and you are gaining studies in religion. Excellent. Okay. So you come back. This is now several weeks later. You still haven't shaved your head, but this is maybe a week or so later, and you come back with that, and you're making your way along the full, stack of books, and this time you look at the plant as the beautiful tree with the hanging, limbs, but you don't touch it because your hands are full, and you make your way over, and once again, as you enter the stupa, you see Sister Shepherd Johanna is speaking to one of the brother shepherds, and she looks over, smiles at you, and makes her way over, her face beaming, and she says, the light of Rad upon you, Keela.
The light of Rad upon you. I finished the studies of these books, and they are really fascinating. So, do you have maybe more?
Really? Well, before we go, let us converse. Let's see what you have learned. So, Keela, why don't you give me a religion check, please?
Yes. No, can I use a...
0 point. Yes, you absolutely can.
Yes.
Nat
Okay.
20. Oh, man.
That's better.
So she is blown away by how fast you have taken to this. You are just, knocking her socks off. Any question she's got, you have an answer and you expand on what it is too. And you actually provide some really keen insight into some of the things that you're talking about. And she's kind of, is a bit taken aback and says, there are brothers who have studied here for nigh on a decade who have not made the insights that you've made in a week, Keela. Truly, you are a wonder. The light of knowledge is bright within you.
And I hope it's get even brighter.
Indeed, indeed. You are prepared now for something grander, or something more challenging, perhaps, and even more difficult. And she reaches over and brings you something else, and brings you more books as well, too. Let's see how you find these. So you take them away. Another week will pass as well, too. And I think probably you still don't quite shave your head yet. You're definitely getting to know a lot more about this stuff. And you come back again. The books that she's provided you are not as big or as cumbersome as the last. They are smaller, so you're able to catch them under one arm. And as you make your way back to the stupa, you once again pass that wonderful hanging tree, but you don't turn and grasp it. You seem, more intent on getting back to the stupa and learning more. So you come back again, and she looks over. And she says, the light of knowledge is shining strong within you, Keela. You finished those already.
Yes, they are smaller than the others, so I had an advantage.
Smaller, but more difficult to navigate, I would have thought. Come, let us discuss things beneath the tree. And we see you guys talking things over again. Why don't you give us another religion roll? Let's see how.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, you're proving yourself more than capable. And I think she's bringing more insight into your, into sort of how this all fits together, and what the philosophy of RAD really means. And I think what it seems to focus on is there's an odd what they're sort of what seems to be the gist of their idea is that knowledge radiates like light, where it by sharing that knowledge, it can illuminate others. And that seems to be the crux of the teachings, although there might be something more to it than what you're able to grasp thus far. What she seems to, there's aspects of it you can't quite grasp, but this definitely seems to be what the underpinning the message or philosophy, I suppose, of the Shepherds of Rad seems to be, or the Temple of Rad. What is going on in Keela's mind as she's learning about this stuff? How is this affecting her?
She's hoping to finally understand the basics behind it, and she's trying to maybe share that light, and maybe one day she can just shut the curse or something from someone else and heal the people around her so they are not dying.
Okay.
And maybe she gets even stronger, and someday nobody can wrap her in and torture her.
So it's not
So
only that she
easily
wants the
that-
knowledge, she also wants to find protection in the
Yes.
light of Rad. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. So on the final day, she gives you the final sort of week here, the most complex tomes that you have received thus far. These are very esoteric. They have, I mean, a lot of them, they're not like formal illuminated manuscripts or formal printed tomes. These are things that are journals from shepherds. These are things with lots of stuff written and scrabbled, in the side. So this is, not only is it difficult to write through because these are not properly put together books and so forth, properly edited things. These are the effectively the ecstatic writings of those who have felt the light of Rad. Before we went live, we were talking about, characters suddenly breaking into song in some text. That's sort of what seems to happen here, is like it'll break down into, rhyme or formulae of some kind. It even seems almost like alchemical formulas at some point, and then it'll go back into what's being written. So it's very challenging to wrap your head around. But you think you're beginning to feel the stirring of that. What's the thing that you think that pushes Keela to the point where she embraces it and knows this is the right path for her, such that she shaves her head?
She learns that that she can put life into things. So heal someone, make someone stronger, and or prevent them from dying. And that's always good, because she tried all her life to prevent plants from dying and make them more shiny and so on. And now she can do that with actual people, and it's her way.
Okay. So I think it sounds like what she's coming to realize is that where magic is the manipulation of ambient power to create things, to warp the world to be the way you want, this comes from within. This is something that channels through rather than being manipulated around. And that sounds like that seems to be what you've been striving for your whole life. So where do we see, in the film version of this, where would we see Keela finally, shaving her head and trimming all these fine locks from her head?
As she begins to begins to understand how the heal spell maybe should work someday, she realized that this putting life into others and maybe destroy undead with it is more this is suited for her. And
so we see Keela standing before this mirror, and there's a carefully, almost as if it's a ritual. There's, a cloth beneath her. There is a straight razor of some kind, and Keela begins intoning. Knowledge is light. Light in the mind. I mind the ways of Rad. Rad is the source of knowledge, as she begins to shave her head, her golden locks falling down to her feet. And I think that tears kind of form in her eyes and begin to slowly go down, but she's laughing with joy as this is happening too. So, and you, at the end, your face still moist from the tears from before, your head now perfectly smooth. And you kind of look at yourself in the mirror, and I think you feel joy. Is that correct?
Hope for the future.
Okay.
And I take my hairs and put them down in the garden for the birds to make a nest out of it.
Okay.
And
So you see birds are there to kind of make a nest of it, and you walk away, and we're going to cut back to that in a moment. But what we see is you head back to meet with Sister Shepherd. And, of course, you get lots of looks and comments, certainly from Wyvernwing. They are merciless, but it sounds like you're impervious, having faced the horrors in the basement of the hacienda that you did, this is their, cruel jests and barbs are nothing in comparison. But what you do see is the sort of, you would expect, well, I'm not sure whether you were expecting surprise on the part of Sister Shepherd Johanna, or Juliana, sorry, but when she sees you walk in, her face lights up. And she comes forward and simply embraces you. And kind of whispers in your ear, "Knowledge is light, light in the mind. I mind the ways of Rad. Rad is the source of knowledge. Magic is life. Life is a spiral. I spiral to you, O Rad. Rad is the source of magic." And she says, "Come, sister, let us pray." Or no, not pray. Let us meditate. And why don't you give me one final religion check, please?
I hope.
Okay. So there is one thing that I will leave you with, and you haven't quite grasped this yet. But what they talk about the power coming from you, and that seems to be what all the writings of the Temple of Rad seems to be, this power that flows through you. It's not like the godhood. It's not like, a god that grants this stuff. Rad is just a name that they've given this arbitrary force. It's like in their mind, like what Taoists refer to the Tao as. It is a name given to an intelligible and unknowable, omnipresent force. But in some of the writings that you've most recently read, you think that they hint at a source. There is a source from which the power of Rad is derived. That is a mystery you'll have to explore a little further as your studies go. But being the keen mind that you are, you suspect that there is something more to this. But that will be a mystery to solve another time. For now, what we'll end with for that scene is it's evening. Your hair is, little strands of it are poking out from within the garden where you had planted them. And we hear the flapping of wings. And what we see land is Toby. And Toby begins kind of poking at the dirt and pulling pieces of your hair out. Now, so that is the sort of the things that I have. I wanted to highlight for your activities in the first month. Let's transition now to, you guys are. I think, Angus, it's you returning back to the month, and at a month in now, how do we see our students have changed? It's a month into their studies now. They've made new friends. They've discovered new things. We'll pick up with all four of our students, kind of busily. You're bustling around. Everyone's going to be heading off to some different thing for the evening. Where is Angus heading this evening?
Well, he's got his standing appointment with Heinrich Eisenfaust to get his ass kicked every night.
There's welts all over him as well too.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So he's grabbing his claymore and he's getting ready to go out. How about Juan Juliano?
I think. Well, we talked about Valyria and I maybe possibly pulling some pranks on some wyvern. Wyverns.
Okay.
Like I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, yeah, possibly something like that. I don't know. Maybe mixing something alchemical to dump in their beds or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
So you're like, yes.
As everybody's gathering around, you see Valyria over there fiddling with a bowl of what looks like cubes, and she's like, "How did they do that?" And she picks one up and sticks it with, another one.
Perfect.
This one's not
Nice.
bad. Dumps it in the kettle and pours everybody some tea while something's brewing in the back. And she looks at Juan and is like, 2 minutes. And she hands the drinks out to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And what about Keela? Where's Keela heading off to tonight?
Keela, after her praying in the temple, she comes back and she looks more meditate. Also she meditates a lot and she's calmer. And she just joins her colleagues in the room and drinks some of the tea which was offered.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it sounds like, I mean, Keela seems eager to please. So even like the terrible tasting stuff, Keela tastes it and says, "You're getting better." And then you take a sip and you're like, "Oh God, yeah."
I took the worst step away. This might taste like black licorice, but it's close.
It's not black licorice, it's turnip.
Meh, acquired taste.
Oh. So that'll be on the to-do list. So, and then as you are about to head out, Angus, you see Master Dascon is kind of, walks in and frames the doorway. And you can see he's got a small, wrapped message in his hand. And he stops and he says, Monsieur McLeish, correspondence pour vous.
Thank you, and I'll accept it.
Okay. You can take a quick look at it. You can tell that this is... it is very rough paper. It's a very... it is not like, fine paper that a grand noble person would use. You recognize this, that this is exactly the kind of thing that would come from home.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do?
So I'm gonna set my sword aside and sit down and open it up because I know that I'm gonna get my ass kicked either way in the sword fight, so I might as well be late.
Yeah. So you open it up, and there are two things on the inside here. It's a piece of paper you fold out, and it's stained, so like it obviously was written in written in a less than ideal environment. What it says in Gaelic is midnight. And then there is a crest of a claymore, a stylized claymore that has been stamped on it. You know precisely what this means. So you will have time to participate in your duel with Eisenfaust, or your practice, I should say, with Eisenfaust. But he definitely gets a lot more licks in than usual this time. Yep. Your mind is distracted. And the... finally, Eisenfaust sort of loses his temper, and I think that he... Let's see here. What do you think happens? He's going to do something. He's not going to, like, cut you or smash you, but there's something particularly humiliating he does that reflects his...
I think he kind of twists the rapier around and wraps me on the wrist, and I, not thinking, just let go and drop the claymore, and I'm sort of standing there defenseless, and he,
yeah, so
holds it up in my face and sort of...
So normally what he's been doing is using, taunts and barbs and stuff like that. So I think that a sign of just how angry he is at you for your lack of focus and whatnot too is he genuinely does push the sword or the rapier right at your throat. Mm-hmm. And he says, "You are dead." And he whips it to the side. He says, but that would simply be your body. Your mind is clearly elsewhere. It is a waste. Lessons are wasted on those without focus. And he turns and starts and just basically walks away. But your mind is elsewhere. So when evening comes, everyone has turned in for the evening. And then we see the big man sneaking his way through the common room and out into the night. You go and secure or retrieve the horse that you had you had ridden all the way from Crownguard and the Principality of Glantri all the way into attend school here. And with a big cloak over your shoulder to try and conceal your, vibrant red hair and your tartan, you go riding off into the night. You ride for about maybe half an hour along the road, and then there is a small, beaten old farm trail that leads off. And it is farmlands that do surround Glantri City. You ride along these farm roads until you reach an enormous ancient oak that spreads out. The sky has scattered clouds in it. The stars are very easy to see this far away from the city. The smell of the late fall, the harvest, is heavy in the air. You can hear the sound of farmer. Well, actually, no, it's midnight. They wouldn't be out. No one is around. The fields are empty, and the moon is a waning moon too. So there's just a sliver of it in the sky, casting light down. Underneath the oak, which is your destination, there's nothing but darkness. But you trust that there is one figure waiting there. So you go riding up. What do we see as you ride up towards this?
Angus kind of getting more and more tense, not actually seeing anybody there, but trusting that it's going to be there. And he's sort of sitting. He's a fairly good rider most times, but you can see he's getting stiff and not thinking about it. And his mind once again is on the future, not what's immediately happening.
Okay. So you get there, and you hear a voice come. That's far enough then. Your money or your life. And it's a voice that you recognize. This is your older brother. And you see, it is Donaghy McLeish, who strides out. And if it is possible, he is an even bigger version of you. It's clear you guys are brothers. The one thing that really stands apart is that Donaghy has this big, bushy, like a honey drip mustache as well, too. And he steps out, and he's got this big grin on his face, claymore at his side as well, too. And he says, "So you were able to get away from that school, then?"
Sort of. Just for a little while.
Well, Papa's plan, or, what do you call it? Father's plan will not work with you elsewhere. Give your brother a hug.
Yeah, and so I hop off the horse, and it's a big, and it's to an outside observer would look more like a wrestling contest than a hug, because it's a big squeeze on both of our parts. To make the other one submit.
Oh, so you've not gone soft then. That's good to hear. Oy. How is it around all them mages?
Well, it's complicated.
Complicated indeed. What's complicated about it? Tyrants and sorcerers, the lot.
Oh. Well, and some of them are pretty freaky deaky.
I can't imagine the horrors you'll have to endure. You know that Father would not ask you to do this were there any other way.
I know.
So, what report do you have for him then? I didn't ride all this way down just to see your pretty face.
What should I have in a report for him?
What?
No, I'm asking out of character.
Yeah.
What?
No. You've been spying.
Yep. So I'm gonna tell him. So I can tell him about basically the names and the sort of wizard class of all of the different people that I've met so far. Basically, tell him about
Would you
Emmett Dascon.
Would you have written that down?
Oh no, this is.
You could have a cipher.
Yeah, but easier to keep it up here.
Okay.
So I've got Emmett Dascon and Heinrich Eisenfaust, and I didn't meet Aranzo, but Valentin Vestimirovich. And then I can also tell him maybe less information about my Conclave Flinders fellas.
Traitor.
Okay. And he says, do any suspect then?
I doubt it.
You know what will happen to you if it's discovered.
Well, I already had one run-in with the secret police, and I'd prefer the next one to be on different terms. Oh, it's a long story.
What did you do? And he kind of hits you on the side of the head, the way that rough brothers only can.
Yep.
Father told you to keep a low profile. How could you get the attention of the secret police already, you fool?
There was an issue with lycanthropy, and
What?
Tell Father that the degeneracy spreads throughout Glantri and reaches to every level.
Gods. If that city could be torn asunder by the spread of that, better to raise it all to the ground. So one thing he doesn't get is that he's thinking, just for out of character, the way you've presented it is that you were taken in by the secret police, not that everyone was.
Yeah.
So he's thinking that they've just picked you up for no damn reason.
I'm gonna tell him a bit about kind of what's happened, that the group of us ended up all going in together, and it was specifically because of, I'm telling them specifically it's because there's a lycanthropy problem that nobody knows, or nobody outside of the secret police seems to know exactly how big this problem is within Glantri City.
So he hands you, while you're talking, he gets you guys to go and have a seat on one of the big gnarled kind of limbs, or not limbs, but the roots from the tree. And he hands you some scotch from home to keep you warm. So he hears the whole story, and he's just like, "Oh, Faith and Bagora, what? See, you face down a spider. A man turned into a spider."
Well, I did have some help.
That definitely beats what I've been up to the last month. Whew. Though, I suppose you could say grappling with Rebecca might be something like grappling with a giant spider too, eh? Oy. Anything else to report? Anything to bring back to Father?
I'm trying to think if I have anything else information-wise. I don't think I have anything else to report to him. Might be useful to say, hey, next time figure out a way to contact me without using the official channels, because
Are they reading the mail?
Well, Dascon could have just opened up the note.
Don't think I'll be showing my face in there. But we'll find another way to get to you. Don't you worry. Then, Father does have a task for you.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere there, they must have a record of the alumni. The alumni and their focus. That will help the struggle. The followers need to know what their enemies are capable of if we're to bring down these terror mages. It won't be easy, brother, but I know you can do it, wee one. And like wee one, you're fucking 6'6". Like it's,
Yep.
Yeah, like.
But I'll always be the little brother.
Yep.
Yep.
I trust you can achieve that then.
So yeah, I just nod. And, yep.
He kind of, Donaghy looks down and says, he doesn't know how to show it, but he doesn't hate you, brother. He doesn't hate you for what you are. He just... It's hard for him. You understand.
I think it's hard for all of us.
Aye. Though I suppose you are cursed with even a worse trouble. I mean, that face of yours. Good God! Got the face of a Gorgon, you do. Well, good luck to you then. It's a long way back to Glantri, and you should be at home before your wizard companions are any the wiser. I love you, brother. Good luck. He gives you a big hug. Stay alive, won't you?
I'm doing my best.
Don't learn too much of that magic. He turns and... Alright then. So, now do you think you have any other brothers?
I think I'm the youngest of like 3 or 4, and
Okay.
he's in the middle.
Sure.
And that's also part of why, because like all youngest of 3 or 4s, I get to be the out there kind of,
Yeah.
the mage of the family, as it were.
I almost forgot. Darcy and Leslie. They had their third boy. A boy as well. He's got a grip that could lift a claymore already. And a cock to match. Oh! Takes after his mother on that count, I think. Aye?
He must.
Indeed. Well, it's a wee bit to home for you. Is your mum still alive, or is she passed on?
Passed on.
What about
part of-
extended? Your grandpa, grandma?
Yeah, grandparents are still around.
Okay, you know what it's from? This is... she says... Oi. Now, I told Cordelia I was going to eat this on the way down, but Cordelia made this for you as well. Cordelia is his wife. And it is... You kind of open up the package, and it is haggis. Now, I told her that she can't make haggis to save her life, but she insisted on bringing it down that her haggis is better than no haggis. I would argue that no haggis is better than her haggis, but her heart was in it, and she passes it. He passes it over to you. Now, brother, Stay alive. Strength beneath the claymore. That's an oath.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. Do we repeat the oath back, or do we say a second phrase?
Well, if you got a second phrase, you can go ahead.
Now I'm on the spot. Harder than the steel.
Okay, nice. And as he's riding away, the last thing he kind of calls out is, if you do eat that haggis, make sure you're outside afterwards. Makes you fart like an animal. And he keeps riding off into the darkness. And then what happens with you, Angus?
So I think we see Angus, he eats a little bit and it, tastes like home and all that sort of stuff. And then we see in his mind him realizing, of course, he can't bring anything special back to the Conclave Flinders room. So he rides back towards Glantri City. He's got it tucked in. And then I think the sequence that we end on for Angus tonight is Angus standing over the canals, and he looks down at the gift, and he's thinking about all that it means to him, and he drops it into the water as he,
Love it. Okay. Then, guys, with Angus riding back towards the campus of the Great School, or you're checking your horse in and then making your way back to the Great School of Glantri, we will end our session there. So, and guys, for tonight, or for today, I should say, you guys gain 170 XP.
Yay!
Yay, I wonder what that's for.
So, congratulations on reaching second level, guys.
Okay.
So between now and the next session, you guys can go ahead and add your new abilities, top up your hit points, and so forth. And that's where we will leave things for episode 5 of the Great School of the Glantri Great School of Magic campaign. So, for those listening at home, thank you so much for joining us for this 5th session, a very chatty, RP-heavy session of the Great School of Glantri. As always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the session, the setting, or if you want to shower praise on the amazing role-playing and improvisation that these players came up with, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll pass along those kind words to the players. You can also follow a link in the description of the video to the Dungeon Musings Discord server, where you can shower those praises on the players yourself. All of us are on there, all of us are active on there, so if you want to chat about this campaign, any of the other campaigns we run on the channel, or any of the other channels we have, including our Find a Game channel, where you can find other people to play with if you don't have a group of your own, or you want to fill up an extra day with gaming. In addition, there is a link in the description of the video to something called Heroes Save Villages. That is the charity fundraising campaign that we run on the channel. We don't currently run ads. We don't run a Patreon. If you are inclined to toss any Galantrian ducats in the direction of the channel, I would encourage you to consider clicking through and learning more about that campaign. It benefits the SOS Children's Villages International Charity, which is a really terrific charity active in over 130 countries that provides stable living situations for over 80,000 orphan and abandoned children. It's a really terrific organization that you can learn all about. You can see the photos of the villages that they have built to help these kids have a childhood who otherwise would not have one. And any donations that are made go directly to help SOS Children's Villages International do their good work. None of it goes to the channel. None of it goes to the, none of it goes to any other middlemen. Of course, I don't want anyone to feel obliged to do that. Just if you are inclined to toss any financial support in the direction of the channel, that is the direction I would encourage you to consider. Last but not least, I want to thank my brave players / students who totally fucking brought their A game to the role playing today. So, Bodo, Brandon, Arlen, and John, thank you so much for joining me back in Glantri City today, guys. I had a shit ton of fun with this.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I was wrapped up into everything. Even when I wasn't playing, I was listening, and I was like,
Yeah.
Excellent. So we've set some interesting things in motion this week. We've learned some secrets about some of our heroes. I look forward to seeing
I like that.
what happens in the next session. So
Sure.
for those listening at home, again, thank you so much for joining us for this session of our Pathfinder 2nd Edition Glantri campaign. Until next time, happy gaming.